I know that saying this is the most important part about GAMSAT essays is a bit risky, especially since ACER themselves says that the only two things that they're actually marking you on in section 2 of the GAMSAT is number 1, quality of ideas, and number 2, organisation of expression. Or is it organisation and expression? I'll just put the handbook thing here. But throughout my own preparation, and particularly now that I'm tutoring and analysing your essays, I can see it loud and clear. Ideas and structure are the starting point. It's analysis, as you probably saw in the thumbnail of this video, that is the most important bit. You can have a great idea, but if your analysis is crap, then it's not going to make a very good essay. Vice versa, if you have a simple idea, but your analysis is amazing, you explain your thoughts really well, you make your idea really clear, you're clear about what you mean, you examine the counter-arguments and the limits of your perspective, you state why your idea is important and the implications that it has on society, and why you're actually writing it in the first place, that will make for a very good essay. So, what does analysis actually look like, and how do we include it in our GAMSAT essays? Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks so much for clicking on this video. Welcome, hello. If you don't know me, my name is Kate Robson and I scored 80 in section 2 of the GAMSAT in the March 2021 sitting, which put me in the top 0.7% of that sitting. Since then, I've been helping other students score highly in section 2, and that's kind of my mission now, as well as making some hopefully cool YouTube videos. If you're a previous subscriber, I just want to give a big shout out to you guys and say thank you again for watching another one of my videos. You guys have really been helping me over the last couple months while I've been posting videos, and it's so nice to have started building this community of GAMSAT followers and non-GAMSAT followers, and I hope that you guys like this mix of videos that I've been doing, a bit of GAMSAT, a bit of non-GAMSAT stuff, just like other life stuff that I've been interested in. Because yeah, I really enjoy having a bit of a mix and doing a bit of both. So I hope that that's something that you guys are enjoying too. If it's not, you can tell me, please make more GAMSAT videos, or please stop making GAMSAT videos, they're so boring. Yeah, chuck that stuff down in the comments, I'd love to hear it, and you can even start a conversation about your essays if you want to as well. Yeah, as well, please like and subscribe if you are new here, and I promise that it'll be a good time. Before we get into the nitty-gritty stuff, I want to make a few announcements. The first is that I'm very excited to finally announce the very special guest of my section 2 online course that I'll be making. I announced in a couple videos back that there was going to be a special guest, but I thought I would just leave you guys hanging for a little bit and then announce it after a while, after I had you guys all guessing. But today's the day, we're finally announcing it. Actually, I announced it in my newsletter that you can also be a part of, which I'll talk about in a sec. Yeah, we're announcing it today officially. The very special guest that will be visiting us in the section 2 online course called Essays Made Easy is, drumroll please, Michael John Sunderland. If you guys don't know who Michael John Sunderland is, he is the highest ever scoring section 2 student. He scored 91 back in, I think it was March last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, text on the bottom. He also just recently got accepted into a Doctor of Medicine at the University of Melbourne. Shout out Michael, very big congratulations to you. He also is the founder and organizer and runner and the genius behind the business that is 90 Plus GAMSAT that I'm sure many of you are a part of, and that was one of the main contributors to my success in section 2. He also does modeling on the side, he's a musician, he's got a baby boy, he does everything, and he's also my personal section 2 tutor. So a lot of what I learn comes from him about my own essays, which I kind of adapt, learn from, and then hope to teach you guys along with all the other stuff that I know myself. It's quite cool. I think we're building a little bit of a community. We both really want to improve the quality of section 2 advice and lessons that are out there so that you ultimately all have the best chance of getting into medicine and doing well in the GAMSAT. That's why I'm making this course, and that's why I asked him to be in it. I want to make you guys the best possible Section 2 course that's got everything that you need to know in a really straightforward, easy to understand, approachable way that you can go through at your own pace and find out everything that you need to do to score highly in Section 2 like I did. So if that's something that you want to be a part of, click the link below and enroll now in the pre-sale, which is 30% off for a limited time for the whole course. There's going to be tips on how to score highly, exemplar essays, worksheets, study plans, everything that you basically need to know to score highly in Section 2. So don't miss out. Grab the pre-sale now. My second announcement is kind of in a similar vein. If you're more into personal one-on-one advice, like some of you know already, I've been tutoring lots of students and really helping them improve their essay writing skills. If that's something that you also want to do, please feel free to reach out to me. I've still got space to take on a couple more students. So you can find that on the GAMSAT page of my website, which also has details about my essay marking service and the newsletter that I have been running recently. It's a weekly newsletter and it just is like a rundown of stuff from my week, any recommendations, as well as the famous, very beloved research recommendation, in which I recommend something that you might want to look into, research a little bit more about, and really get to understand that you could use in an example in one of your GAMSAT essays. I really enjoy writing these. It's lots of fun to research different parts about it. I kind of include like a rundown of the topic as well, so you don't have to do all of the work, plus articles, books, whatever, videos to watch, things to read, so that you can dive into it yourself. I try to make them as fun as possible as well, so if you're into free resources and you can't afford the course or tutoring, then feel free to just sign up to that and it'll be lots of fun, I promise. Okay, so let's start. What is analysis anyway? A lot of us actually don't know what analysis is or what analytical essays are supposed to do, especially if you come from a science background. You might not understand or know what actually needs to be in an essay and what you're doing it for. So let's break it down and figure it out. I've done quite a bit of research on this and I'll link these links in the video description below because they're actually really helpful and good to read, so I would recommend you read them yourself. But I've kind of broken them down and taken the most important bits from them that I think will help you. So analytical essays serve two purposes, one for the writer and one for the reader. The first one is for you, the writer, to break down your idea and improve your understanding or comprehension of the topic. The second one is for the reader, to make sure that they understand your idea clearly, to make sense of that idea, or to see the topic that they know already in a new light through a specific lens that you have created for them, and also to educate them on matters of importance, or at least ones that you think. Importantly here, your main purpose isn't to try to convert the reader to your point of view, but to use examples and analysis to ensure that the clarity of your idea, the strength of your argument is clear to readers. Analytical essays are ones that present some claim or type of argument about what you're analyzing. It is not a summary. It is asking the how something is the way it is and why it is that way. From one of the resources online, I found that what an analysis essay does is that it chooses selective pieces of evidence and analysis in order to arrive at one single complex argument that makes a claim about the deeper meaning behind the piece being analysed. In the essay, each piece of evidence selected is paired with deep analysis that builds or elaborates on the last until the thesis idea is reached. Therefore, a strong thesis should make a claim or a point about a subject that needs proving, because that's what the analysis is for, to prove your thesis. On the other hand, a weak thesis is one that either makes no claim or is an assertion that doesn't need proving. It's a fuzzy lens that will not help the reader or writer gain a better understanding of the topic. I found this nice example online. So most weak thesis statements suffer because they are overly broad or not specific enough. So we've got an example of a bad one, using a broad noun, a weak verb, and a vague adjective, which is, the economic situation is bad, which is not a good thesis. Whereas we can look at the strong thesis example that they gave, which is specific noun, active verb, and assertive prediction. And this says the tax policies of the current administration, much more specific, threaten to reduce the tax burden on the middle class by sacrificing education and healthcare programs. Way clearer, way more assertive, way more detailed. So overall here, analysis is to go deeper into the subject matter, to explain your thesis and to prove your point. One of the things that I find students and myself tripping up on is that we use too many examples and don't analyze instead. What I want you guys to practice doing is asking yourself questions. When you do use evidence and examples, ask yourself questions about that example. So ask yourself what the evidence implies about your argument. What aspects of this evidence would I like my audience to notice? Why did I choose this particular piece of evidence? Why does this evidence matter to my argument? Why is this evidence important in some ways but not in others? How does this evidence contradict or confirm my argument? Does it do both? And how does this evidence evolve or change my argument? In your analysis, you want to focus on being explicit. All evidence needs to be explicitly connected to your argument. Even if the meaning seems obvious to you, explain yourself. And do this by following any piece of evidence with 1 or 2 sentences explaining exactly what you mean by that and how it connects to your topic or your point. Also, allow your analysis to question your argument. A good analysis should show how the evidence proves your argument, but also should uncover the complexity within your argument. Even if you stumble upon something along the way throughout your analysis that's contradictory of your point, say that, use it, and then refine your argument accordingly. You can openly think in these essays, but that thinking that you're doing is what we want to harness. You also want to avoid patterns of weak or empty analysis. Don't just fill in the space with sentences that don't answer how or why this evidence is actually connected to your point, because this will negatively affect your credibility as a writer. Some examples of weak analysis includes offering up a new piece of evidence directly after the first one without analyzing the first, using an overly biased tone, or just restating the claim after analyzing rather than letting the reader themselves discover the subtlety of your argument, dismissing the relevance of your evidence, or using broad generalizations to come to your argument and tie your evidence to your argument to explain it. I think this is where a conversation about the structure and the importance of structure comes in. In body paragraphs, you should begin each body paragraph with a sentence that sets up the main point you'll be discussing. So that's your topic sentence or your point if you're using the Peel structure. Then you'll give some analysis on that point, backing it up with evidence to support your claim. So it's not that the evidence is the most important bit, it's the analysis that is the most important bit. And then the evidence is like an embellishment to your point. It's something to ground your argument in something real that I can recognize as the reader. Then continue analyzing and giving evidence for your analysis until you're out of strong points for the topic. Then use a linking sentence to transition and set up what your next paragraph will be. So really, it is all just about analysis, about grinding your idea and your argument down to the bone until you literally run out of things to say. Now, I wanted to look at some real examples for you guys so you can see exactly what I'm talking about and exactly what I mean when I say a weak analysis or a strong analysis or a good and a bad analysis. To do this, I thought I would expose myself and show you guys some of my own bad versus good, well, better writing. This is something that I kind of whipped up fairly quickly, but the first bad example of bad analysis is from an essay that I wrote recently. It was like almost timed. It's one of the body paragraphs in an essay that I wrote about art. And this is one of the criticisms that I received about this essay. Like, I used too many examples and I didn't actually focus on analysis. So I've gone back and in the good analysis bit, I've written a very different paragraph, and hopefully you'll be able to see the difference between a paragraph that doesn't include any analysis and one that does. I'll read our bad analysis paragraph first and see if you can spot what I'm talking about. Art is not only a beautiful way of capturing moments, but an effective one. It can provide us with a medium or format to depict important moments that we deem as memorable, in order to be able to reflect on them in the future and learn of our past. Art has taken many forms throughout history. 50,000 years ago, the First Nations people of Australia painted depictions of the Dreamtime and stories of the Earth's creation on rock surfaces, some of which are regarded now as sacred sites. These artworks allow the story of the Dreamtime to be told and passed on through generations as important spiritual and cultural connections to the past. During the Renaissance in Western Europe, millions of artworks were created, such as the Birth of Venus, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and the Last Supper. These works are incredibly important to many cultures around the world and play a vital role in our education of the past, which informs our understanding of the present. Pictures of the Berlin Wall falling in 1989 allow us to remember the complicated past of Germany and the political repercussions of the Second World War into the geographical, social, and economic divisions of East and West Germany, which still pervades in modern Germany and has profound impacts on the lives of citizens living there today. That was the longest sentence ever. Of course, not all art is useful, but that is not to say that not all art matters. All artworks are time capsules, memory banks, and tickets into the past which allow us to form connections with it, respect it, and understand it so that we may better understand the present. In many ways, art is the most useful and beautiful form of expression. Okay, so it's nice in terms of writing. It's fairly good writing, but it just doesn't have that element of deep analysis that would have made it a higher quality paragraph. Instead of actually going into some further analysis about one specific point and about my idea and actually explaining my idea of why art is an effective way of connecting with the past, I've used 3 different examples and kind of explained each of them only a little bit, instead of explaining one deeply. So instead, I rewrote it, trying to do a bit of a better job. Of course, this hasn't been marked, but I already think upon writing it and reading it back, hopefully it's a little bit better. So don't take this as gospel, but let's see if we think it's an improvement. I started off in the same way. Art is not only a beautiful way of capturing moments, but an effective one. It can provide us with a medium or format to depict important moments that we deem as memorable in order to be able to reflect on them in the future and learn of our past. Art is regarded as an essential component of cultural expression among the First Nations people of Australia. Although the particular style or message of art, song, and dance differs between tribes, the sense of importance of art as a form of storytelling, communication, and expression is common among First Nations people. As there is no written language for Australian Aboriginal people, art has been used for thousands of years as the selected medium to pass on knowledge of the land, cultural practices, and beliefs. The first evidence of Aboriginal ethos and philosophy has been found on still visible rock art, which dates back more than 20,000 years. This is not only an effective method to capture moments and teach important cultural messages, but is a sacred way to pass on this information to future generations so that children can learn about the history of their culture, build a connection to it, ground their identity in the stories of their ancestors, and continue the cycle to their own children. The iconic use of symbols in Australian Aboriginal art does mean that the interpretation of Indigenous culture may differ depending on who is interpreting it. But this only enriches an understanding of the past, the complexity of the Earth's creation, and the connection between people, land, and water, and allows for the input and interpretation of the individual and future generations to assign their own meaning to history. This is why it is so important to preserve sacred sites and respect the importance of art in Australian Indigenous culture, particularly as a nation of immigrants. Art is much more than just pictures on a wall, a melodic harmony, or a cultural dance. It is an inextricable connection to the story of our land and our ancestors. In this way, art may be used to forge a personal and national identity grounded in our collective cultures, and to live our individual lives with respect for the land, people, and culture that has come before us, lives now, and will live on after us. Now, you can think what you want about that paragraph. Obviously, this is also a bit of a first draft, but I hope that you guys can see the difference between what I mean about the first one and about the second one. The second one goes into depth. It explains what I mean by art being able to form a connection with the past and being an important way of capturing moments. It goes into depth about Australian Aboriginal culture, the culture of the First Nations people of Australia, which shows a greater depth of understanding that I might have as well. So not only have I expanded my point, but I've showed my depth of understanding, my respect and appreciation for other cultures. I mean, it's not a perfect understanding of other cultures. I probably could have included a sentence in there about not understanding it completely, being a white person growing up in Australia, but it is a start. In terms of proving my point, it's a lot stronger because it actually goes into depth about a specific example that connects to my point and uses that example in a way and analyzes it in the context of the point so that it can further the argument. Hopefully it also teaches the reader something new, or perhaps asks them to look at it from a different perspective or to see it from my point of view. If you can do all of that in your analysis paragraphs, you'll certainly be on the right way to be writing a good essay. Alright, so hopefully by now you're quite clear about why analysis is important in essays in general, but why is it specifically important in GAMSAT essays? And why am I saying that I think it's the most important thing? That's a big claim to make and it could be a bit controversial. Well, if we analyze my argument, there are 5 main reasons. To show your ability to think critically and independently and on your feet within, a very short period of time. Number 2, to convince them of your skills of persuasion. Number 3, to make your idea super clear to the markers. Number 4, to demonstrate your ability to communicate effectively and to make sense of information. And number 5, to show them what you believe in and what you stand for. Of course, we can only guess what ASA really wants. I don't know anyone personally that works at ASA and I can't tell you the inside opinion, but we can only guess and hope that that's the kind of stuff that they want to see, because they have to differentiate you from everybody else in that room. So if you can show them those things, then I reckon you've got a pretty good shot. So, moving forward, prioritize analysis in all of your essays, task A and task B. Show them that you can think. Ask yourself how you can explain your point in a way that makes it clear and that makes your argument bulletproof. Ask the why of, why you think something, and the why of that, and the why of that. Get to the bottom of your beliefs, your ideas, and where your ideas come from, and what evidence there is to ground those ideas in something real. For example, if we take the idea of art being an important form of human connection, why do I think that? Well, probably because the art that I've seen has connected with me in specific ways, or I know of people that art has connected with personally. Okay, but why of that? Why has it connected with me or some people? Probably because we assign meaning to objects and things. Okay, so why of that? Well, we do it because we anthropomorphize, we try and make links between things, we understand things in terms of our own lives and our own experiences. Then the counter argument can come from that, and you can say that, well, not everybody does that with art, but I'd say that everybody does this with something, whether it's a water bottle or pets or toys. We assign meaning to things. We forge an emotional connection with them. Why do we do that? Well, we do that to better understand them and to ultimately understand ourselves better. So then you could say that it kind of ultimately becomes an egotistical thing or a selfish thing to connect with art and to place meaning on art. But, in other ways, it's also not selfish. So there are just so many ways that you can go with it when you actually start to analyze properly. Ask yourself why. Also, focus on showing them that you've thought about it. Do this in the exam room. Hash it out on paper. Show them that you've really tried to critically think about the topic and that they can see that. So they can see that you've done the hard work while you're in there. And finally, get to the bottom of what your actual argument is and make it crystal clear for the reader and for yourself, so that there are no holes in your essay, there are no gaps that you've left out, and so that your essay is just awesome in the end. I hope this has been helpful for you guys. If you have enjoyed it, please like and chuck a comment below. Tell me what you thought of it. Tell me what you think is the most important thing in GAMSAT essays. I think that sort of critical thinking will be really helpful for us to understand the point of, why it is we're actually doing all this and why they're asking us to write essays instead of, having an interview or something else or blah, blah, blah. Why are these essays there? That's what we want to know, and we want to know the why of your idea and your argument. That's all I've got for today. I hope it helped. Thank you so much for watching if you have got up to this point, and I will see you for the next video very soon.
So girls moving around, if you see your main dog